So grab your friends, grab your family, bring them in here if they're not already in here. It is with great pleasure that I get to welcome to the stage Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim, alongside Scott Dietls, the author of The Tao of Bitcoin. So let's give a massive round of applause to these legends.
Right on.
Are we on here?
We're on.
All right. Okay, so pleasure to be here.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun being here.
You ever feel like you are trying to push something that might be one of the most important things that's ever happened for the city of Vancouver, and are facing opposition from people who've done no work to understand what you're trying to do? And what does that feel like?
It feels great. By the way, I'm going to preface this with, I know it's a long day. It's been, it's been a long day. So what I'm committed to is giving you a lot of value in the next, what do we have here? 21 minutes, 21 and a half minutes. And so I'm going to be completely unfiltered. You can ask me any question you want, and we can go really deep.
Great.
So, yeah, no, it's incredibly frustrating, I don't know. By the way, none of these questions, I had no idea what questions you're going to ask. So excuse the meandering journey of my answers here. No, it is frustrating because we have a massive issue that we're trying to solve, and most people don't even understand that we have a problem. And then you take a lot of shots from people who have done absolutely no work on this. And the reason I get frustrated is the individuals in that chamber at City Hall, they were elected and they have a fiduciary duty to do what's in the best interests of the city of Vancouver, not in their own political best interests. And that's the battle that we're fighting.
Yeah, I think, and this is part of the problem with Bitcoin and politics, is that people who don't know anything about it would consider it to be a political issue, and it's not, right? So maybe we've got people in the audience with various levels of understanding of Bitcoin. What is why is Bitcoin important? Why does this matter?
Yeah, so I'm going to rewind back. So the first part of the question was, it's a political, or your comment was it's a political issue. I'm going to call bullshit, not on you, but on some of the politicians in that chamber. By the way, I'm going to get into a lot of trouble after. But, there are individuals that actually own Bitcoin in that chamber that are fighting this. So it's very hypocritical.
Wow.
Yeah. Sorry, what was your questioning? I just wanted to get that shot.
If you could explain, why is this important?
Yeah. So I think most of this crowd knows that we have a debasement problem, not just in Canada, but throughout the entire world. And so when you look at the fact that, stated inflation's running at, 2.1%? As an aside, how many people's basket has only gone up by 2.1% in the last year? Yeah, no one's. It's gone up by 10 to 15% every single year for the last 5 years. And so what that means is our purchasing power is going down. So we have $3.4 billion in fixed income instruments that are getting about 2.3% in interest, so about $80 million. But they're losing between $300 and $500 million of purchasing power. And so why that's important is there will be a time where, we can't outrun this debasement. We won't be able to afford to pay our police officers, our firefighters, our engineers, our bylaw enforcement officers, people that work in planning, the money they need to run their lives. Mm-hmm. And so the whole thing blows up.
Mm-hmm. And so I guess, there's maybe people feel like there are more urgent things, homeless, affordability. Like how do we communicate how Bitcoin solves these problems sort of indirectly by protecting the future?
Yeah, and so unfortunately politics gets in the way. Mm-hmm. And what people don't understand, and we do work on homelessness, but that's actually not our responsibility as a city. That's the province's responsibility. And so I'm not knocking prior administrations, but you have to go back to Gregor Robertson. By the way, we're friends. So we're not bashing anyone here, very far from it. But he opened he opened the Pandora's box when he said he wanted to solve homelessness, which is not a city of Vancouver responsibility. Mm-hmm. And so that gave the province an out. So now people blame the cities for homelessness when we have actually no jurisdiction and no resources to solve that issue. Mm-hmm. And so we're focusing our efforts on what the city can do. And on top of that, if you want to deal with affordability, we have to make sure the money we have doesn't melt, mm-hmm. right? And so that's part of the affordability thing. It's funny, we came up with the lowest property tax increase in the last 8 years at 2.9%, which means whatever. For the average condo owner, it's actually 17 cents a day. And people think, well, that's running at inflation. It's like, no, we actually gave everyone a tax break because real inflation is running at 10 to 15, and we came in under 3. Mm-hmm. So we gave everyone in the city of Vancouver a tax break of at least 7%, but it doesn't feel that way. Mm-hmm. Do you see what I mean? Yep. So if we start focusing on the problem that no one sees, we go a long way in making sure that our city can run really well and people can afford to live here, and they will actually be able to have careers in the city or in the industries that they want to in our city.
Mm-hmm. There have been some really high-profile decisions. Texas Strategic Reserve, Harvard. Have these kinds of announcements provided any like relief or positive headway for your own efforts, or?
Yeah, it doesn't hurt. The problem is a lot of these things have happened in the summer when no one's paying attention. Mm-hmm. And so it would have been nice if they happened in September, but we'll deal with it. But yeah, it definitely helps. And when you look at Harvard, actually, can I rewind back a little bit? So we started a company way before politics. We started a company called Nurse Next Door. And it was based on a book called Boom, Bust, and Echo by David Foote. And he talked about demographics, and he said 20, 30 years from now, home health care will be a big thing. You just look at the demographic iceberg that was just sort of, making its way. Like, you could see it. It was slow moving, but you could see it. And I remember when we first started our company, everyone hated it. Right? They said, how dare you come into these hospitals and try to prey on people in their darkest hour when they need help. And 5 years later, those same nurses who we love said, oh my God, your service is amazing. You are actually providing a service and that we really need, and we wish you were here 5 years ago. There is one thing that I have some skill in is pattern recognition. This is the same pattern. This is the exact same pattern. It's out there for everyone to see. There are no surprises. Just like David Foote wrote a book on demographics, there are a ton of books talking about how all our currencies are getting debased, how the system's going to fail. There are a couple of people that talked about first principles. This is just simple math, and it's going to fail. And I feel we're in the same place where right now we're running into a lot of people that are saying, how dare you, right? Or you're Ponzi scheme, or it's used by criminal and all the garbage that you hear in the media. And I don't think it's going to be 5 years. I actually think it's going to be a couple years from now where people go, oh my God, this is great. Where were you before? Mm-hmm. And you're all the early ones. It doesn't feel early, but you are the early ones, and you're going to get rewarded for it.
So in December, there was the Commission for the Feasibility Study. Can you comment on the progress that's been made since then, and how's it going?
Yeah, look, we're battling. This should come up in the fall, but I didn't. I think I underestimated how tough it is to get things through the bureaucracy. How do I put this? Okay, one thing, back in December when we came up with a Bitcoin motion, as a signal, our family committed to donating $10,000 worth of Bitcoin to the city, and we're still waiting for an address. We're still waiting for the legal way of accepting a donation. We can accept art, we can accept a whole bunch of things, but for one, like, I don't even understand what the reason is, or at least I can't say what it is publicly, but we can't accept a gift of Bitcoin. And as we know here, it's, you know, the most transparent thing out there, and it's like magic. It's incredible, and we can't accept it.
There was a panel earlier today about the Bitcoin mining in the pool at Kits, and I think, you know, another one of these issues is the moronic misconception around energy consumption in the Bitcoin network, and I'm sure this is something that comes up for you. And how do you speak to the environmental impact misconceptions about Bitcoin?
Yeah, look, I wasn't, I think some of you have probably seen me on a podcast here or there, and I talk about how Bitcoin's going to solve everything. It's the greatest invention ever. When it comes to the environment, we try to re-educate people. It's actually the complete opposite of the narrative that's being propagated in the media. And so it's actually going to help the environment. Like, think of natural gas. When it gets flared off, it's super destructive to the environment. And so when we repurpose the natural gas and we use it for Bitcoin mining, it actually takes some of the pollutants out of the atmosphere. Or when methane seeps from the ground, right? You recapture that as well. Or when green environmental or green energy products or projects, they don't pan out because of the intermittent nature of the energy that's being produced. They don't make economic sense. But when Bitcoin miners that are location agnostic, they'll like buy up all the demand. All of a sudden, there's an economic case for these projects. They get financed, and once they're built, guess what? The locals in that area probably pay more for that energy, and so now they have clean energy that they wouldn't have had before, and that's all due to the Bitcoin miners. So this thing's great for the environment.
Mm-hmm. What would be your vision for, like, what would success look like for you in this initiative in the next, you know, what could happen this year or in this term for you?
Yeah, we have to get the ability to buy Bitcoin approved, or at least, and I know it's not optimal, but at least the Bitcoin ETFs, so we have exposure to it. So you know, it's still not, you know, not your keys, not your Bitcoin, but it's a good proxy. You know, at the end of the day, as mayor, I have a fiduciary duty to make sure that we take care of the city and we ask these questions and we look at these things. It's completely ridiculous. Like, if you took Bitcoin out, like, take it out of the conversation, it's completely ridiculous. We have investments, like safe investments in bonds, that are losing 10 to 15% of their value every single year. And so the fact that we're not looking at alternative investments being gold or, you know, index funds is crazy. It actually, it's stupid. Yeah, it's negligent. So we've started that conversation. Best case scenario, we have the ability to buy Bitcoin and store it, you know, put it on the balance sheet forever. A nice second place would be the ETF. Third place would be, at least we have exposure to equities so we don't get completely debased.
Wow. If you could, like, just speak to the whole city through like a megaphone, and you needed people to understand like one thing about why this needs to happen, and, you know, at the risk of not repeating this or beating it to death, but like,
Yeah, and this is where I get into trouble because, first of all, I don't consider myself a politician. I'm an elected official. I have nothing to lose up here, right? It was mentioned in another session. The only reason I ran and wanted to become mayor is our 4 boys didn't see a future for themselves in the city that I love, the one that I was born in, I grew up in, and I came back to. And so that's why I ran. And we're in a fortunate position where, and I say this respectfully, I don't need the job, I don't need the paycheck. So the reason I share that with you is I can go into these situations and not worry about popularity. I literally have nothing to lose. So I can say what I'm going to say next. We're in a lot of trouble if we don't do something about this debasement. And the city... So the city of Vancouver, we don't have a lot of tools. We don't have a lot of taxing abilities. And by the way, I don't like taxing anyways. But we don't have that ability, and we don't have a money printer. And we can't cut a lot. Like, I'm fiscally responsible. There isn't, and we looked into this, and we actually brought 58 people, really smart people that aren't tied to the city to rip through our financial statements and give us recommendations, and they did a great job, and we're following their playbook. But I can tell you, there isn't a lot of room to cut. And even if we did cut, it would probably be the wrong decision. For example, the police budget was cut during the last administration. And we saw what happened on our streets. Crime was up, public safety was down. And as soon as we reinstated the budget, and for the first time in 15 years we had a fully funded police service, guess what? Crime was down. The streets were safer. Now, we didn't get to the root cause of the problem because the root cause of a lot of these challenges are actually mental health issues. And you can't police your way out of that, and we don't want to police our way out of it. But if we don't start having real conversations and deal with the root cause of these issues and protect our city, we're in a lot of trouble. And that's a hill I'm willing to die on.
Mm-hmm. As we're maybe just coming towards the end of our time, can I give you like an open mic for anything else that you might want to...
You know what? I'd actually like to just ask a couple of, like, if anyone has 1 or 2 questions in the crowd.
Great.
And make it a really good one, like really hard hitting, something that you wouldn't normally ask. Sorry, is there anyone? Anyone? No, I'm just kidding. Hold on, sorry.
Okay, this is just a suggestion. I think it's important to turn up the shame factor, and here's what I mean. If it was 1996, and like I'm a doctor in Kerrisdale, and if a patient came to me and said, you know what, I just immigrated to this country and it takes me 3 weeks to write a letter back home, and it takes 3 weeks for them to respond with a delay in between, and I knew about email, and I didn't tell them about it, how shameful would that be? And so that's why I think the shame factor is important, not to belittle someone in the chamber, but what would you think of me if I knew there was an open, freely accessible tool that you could use to completely eliminate this problem? And not only did I ignore it, I kept it from you and told you it was a bad idea. I think the shame factor might be important.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't know if I can do that. One of the reasons, or one of the things I wanted to accomplish, there are 5 things I wanted to accomplish as a mayor, and one of them was to have a united city. And that means not punching back and getting personal. Now, I actually don't know if we'll ever have a united city because we've used that playbook for 2.5 years. And we're good, but everyone else has demonized us, like our opposition. And I don't think that's going to change. But I'll leave you with this, just on the shame thing. We don't have to do anything. All we have to do is have this conversation and let them speak. Because all this stuff is going to get recorded. And to remember Brian Gumboldt and Katie Couric talking about the internet? Or Harvard. Their quote was something to the effect of, Bitcoin has a bigger chance of getting to dropping to $100 than hitting 100,000. And last week, what they spent, what, $117 million buying 1,000 equivalent Bitcoins. So we don't mind having this conversation and letting the politicians chirp, and we'll see in 10 years, but I feel pretty good about where this is going.
Is there any update at all from your staffers on both sides that are doing their investigative work to kind of figure out if Bitcoin is going to be a yes or a no at the end of this when we get there? Are you having those discussions as they're finding?
Yeah, it's going to be coming out this fall.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if that's beyond my pay grade, but first of all, it is the province's responsibility with assistance from the federal government. And so I do want to stress, like, the city has absolutely no ability to solve it. Like, a 1% property tax increase in the city of Vancouver is about $11 million bucks. Okay, do you think we're going to be able to solve homelessness for 11 million or 110 million? Or 1.1 billion. 110 million would be a 10% property tax increase. People would lose their minds. 1.1 billion doesn't solve it either. That would be a 100% property tax increase. We don't have the jurisdiction or the resources. But you fix the money, you go a long way into solving that problem. Because, look, maybe answering it a different way, and this isn't the whole thing around homelessness, and this is a Bitcoiner crowd, people are getting debased, right? Like, if you actually look at the housing prices in the city of Vancouver, they haven't changed in 100 years in real terms. And so I had to prove this to myself. I think some of you have heard this. When priced in dollars, the average detached home from 1995 was $500,000. At the end of 2023, it was 2.43 million bucks, or went up 383%. Everyone knows that, or everyone feels that. When priced in gold, it went from 958 ounces to 957 ounces. Didn't move. Okay, and then in Bitcoin, it dropped like a rock. The point is, your currency or your wages didn't go up 383% over that same period. The money's broken. Humans are getting debased and they're getting left behind. Fix the money, you go a long way to fixing all our problems.
We're at 6 if you want to keep going. Yeah.
I got to leave like 2 minutes ago, but we'll take one last question.
It's related. How Bitcoin can eventually support the drug problem? The philosophy of Bitcoin. I want to know if you have any ideas that could be related.
Sorry, the drug problem? Yeah, once again, way beyond my pay grade, and I can sort of hit a narrow subset of it. Part of it is, opioids are getting prescribed in North America, and so we're dealing with the fallout now. But once again, it goes to, if people are feeling left behind and they're getting debased, it's an outlet. And that, it's a small subset of it, but it's a real thing. And if you fix the money, once again, you fix that small subset.
Ken, I want to maybe on behalf of everyone who's here, thank you for your efforts and what you're trying to do. When I think about what leadership is, it's trying to do what's right instead of what's easy. And I can't think of something more than what you're trying to do now with Bitcoin in Vancouver. And I think we're all rooting for your success. And so thank you for everything you're doing for us.
Well, thanks. And I'll leave you with this. I'm not alone. It's this community here that's fighting the battle, and we're going to win. We may not win in the short term. That's just the reality. But we know that nothing stops this train.
Good morning. It's good. All right. Thank you, everybody. Zach?